how do you draft poorly and play a bunch of scrap heap players and still compete as an organization? Well, as the San Francisco Giants, the Guardians could take some plays from their playbook. Maybe they could hire one of their coaches. I don't know. We'll find out. We're going to talk about the Giants' goofy organization compared to Cleveland today. If maybe Cleveland can hire one of their coaches, and we'll check in on the action from San Francisco as the game is going on live early on today's Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to say thank you to everyone joining in. We again know it is a frustrating team right now, and we just appreciate everyone coming out and joining us. And another late night. We do want to say also thank you to Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I don't know. I'm exhausted. But we're gonna have fun.
We are not going to record
to
the end of this one. By the way, it's
we're
the
not.
It's the top of the second inning. We both got to get up for work tomorrow, so we'll chime in as the game goes on.
I got to interrupt you. I just have to interrupt. So I was sitting here talking. We're talking about the bad Giants because we don't love their prospects. We haven't loved their drafts. And I got to pull this data. So the Giants have maybe had the worst 10 years of drafting from 2013 till 2023 in the first round. We'll have to see how it works out. But if you want to go from essentially, listen, if you want to do the cutoff as from 2010 until 2020, it might still be the worst first round where Christian Arroyo or Joe Panic is your best player. But they had a weird stretch where from 2018 through 2008, every single first rounder got to the big leagues. They were all just terrible. They took the safest of the safe and got nothing to get out of it. And if you think that's all I got, oh no, my friend, this is the craziest team when it comes to the draft. Cleveland, I love you to death, but their second best second round pick in the history of this franchise is Brian Reynolds, who never played for him. Bob Kepner is the first, any of you long timers, with Chris Singleton and Scott Limbrick, at least being guys I know. Their third round, I know people are like, this isn't Locked On Giants, but we got to mention this. The second highest WAR of a third round pick. This is a valuable round. It is an incredibly valuable 0.8. They have not drafted and signed a dude, Mike Benjamin, who I do remember. He was drafted in 87, infield guy, bounced around. After him, it's Alan Worth from 1974, 0.8. He appeared in 23 games. How in the third round do you not have two guys with a WAR over one? This is now I will
it's
say
like Cleveland's second round.
I mean, but then you go to their fourth round. Logan Webb's great. Remember Russ Ortiz, who pitched forever, Rob Deere, Brandon Crawford, Charlie Hayes, Mike Myers is a lefty pitcher. It's an interesting one there. But I also have to point out the Giants are the same team that I got this double checked because I wasn't 100% sure. And the great Melissa Lockard, my favorite editor ever, one of the nicest people I've met in the business, confirmed this for me, that the Giants in the late 90s signed Michael Tucker to a contract to intentionally lose their first round pick. Like, this is a team. That is how they handled. So if you're like, how could a team be this bad? There is your answer. I mean, they're fifth round, Brandon Belt, Bob Howery. Okay, that's all. Doug Mirabelli, third best. Ty Block, fourth best. Like, this is just a murderer's row of crap. For as much as I've complained about how bad Cleveland is. And then, it gets fun. The Giants are also a fun team because I recently, thanks to, our good friends over at Immaculate Grid, went down some rabbit holes. And the Giants, for as much as like Cleveland fans will complain about like the guys Cleveland has given away, man, the Giants, like Joe Nathan was that AJ Brzezinski deal where they I'm trying to think who the other guy was who, like, I really thought I thought that was the thing I was gonna say. I was like, oh man, Boof Bombsner, they're gonna regret that.
Francisco Liriano, ring a bell?
Yeah, Liriano and that. And then they had another like all-timer that I was going through that I'm blanking on right now, who they gave up for like nothing. I was like, oh my goodness, like they're giving up guys who are some of the, like Joe Nathan's kind of crazy because he's like one of the top 10 all-time in saves, and dude didn't hit the big leagues till he was almost 30. But this is a weird Giants team, weird history.
And guess what? They have 3 World Series rings in the last 15 years or so. And if you want to make any sort of correlation or hope that the Guardians, because look, San Francisco is a very goofy team
Austin
right now.
Slater is their greatest 8th round pick ever.
Yeah.
Weird.
The Giants, their roster is very weird. They don't have a whole lot of homegrown talent on it. The guys that are homegrown are not like, there's a couple guys in the roster like Luis Matos is interesting. And I don't think Marco Luciano is up anymore, but he was up at one point this year. Crawford is a shell of himself at this point. A lot of their pitching staff outside of, Kyle Harrison, Logan Webb are up. So the correlation here is that the Giants have always done very well pitching. You remember Lincecum, you remember Matt Cain, you remember Madison Bumgarner, Harrison and Logan Webb look very interesting. And their offense is, he's really good.
Yeah, he's not one of their developed guys, but I think the lesson we learned from Alex Cobb is sign guys when they leave Baltimore.
That's true too. So, but what San Francisco has been doing since they won their World Series since 2010 and 12 and 14, whatever years those were, they've always had a very piecemeal offense. They've never really had like this offense that really hums. And I don't know if that, we're going to, unfortunately, for better or for worse, the Guardians are going to find out if they can do the same thing. The one thing the Giants do well is they've always had good pitching in their good years. Cleveland, obviously good pitching. The Giants have had piecemeal offense. I mean, Buster Posey and Paulo Sandoval were pretty good hitters back in the day. Brandon Belt was a good hitter for them for a while. They don't really have a good lineup anymore. They're a game and a half out of the wild card spot in the NL. They were a very good team a couple years ago with kind of the same players. They identified Patrick Bailey as a future cornerstone this year.
He was a sliding guy in the draft. That's the one draft pick that looks like it's going to work out for them. But they've you look at like Lamont Wade, who they got from the Twins, who's been kind of an every other year guy. You look at a few other players that Mike Yastrzemski never really got his opportunity. I don't think Thario Estrada was a guy who bounced around. Wilmer Flores is like his 4th team, and he's a great year. This is 100% a team that is put together with glue and duct tape, and somehow it works out where they are roughly average. Now, did they spend in free agency? They tried. They went out and tried to get Correa. They tried to get Judge.
It isn't like their money is really working.
To go home. But yeah, it's like Mitch Haniger is not giving them a lot. Conforto's hurt again. They added the other Rogers brother.
Alex Cobb.
Yeah,
their best money spent was on. Sean Manaea was not a good signing for them. I thought it'd be sneaky. Alex Wood has not been great this year. No. Yeah, the Rogers brother was good.
He's been all right, but
Cobb has been good. But no, Haniger has not been good this year. Jack Peterson has been solid for them. That's a good pickup for them. Obviously, at one time Cleveland was supposedly interested, and then he called them cheap, and I don't know what happened there. But this is all to say that you're looking at a lineup. And also don't forget, the Giants did sign Roberto Perez to be their catcher this year, and he is now out for the year again with another injury, allowing Patrick Bailey although Patrick Bailey has a concussion right now, that's unfortunate, allowing Patrick Bailey to emerge in terms of Joey Bart's struggles as well. But all this to say that
Joey Bart is like Cam Gallagher right now without the defense.
Yeah, if you want to look at like some hope of how does it work when you have a roster full of guys that aren't really stars and they all have weird skill sets that might be major leaguers, but it doesn't really make them starters, and there's nothing really holding them together. Like, I don't think the Giants even have a Jose Ramirez right now, do they? Like,
no.
They don't even have that, and they're competitive.
Probably their closest guy, and he's solid, but he's like he's a solid performer.
So
he had that Giants, high point, but he's not a guy that I think anyone is sitting back and thinking is an MVP candidate since 2020. I believe.
So the Giants are kind of an organization you could look at and say, okay, they've made it work. Cleveland should take maybe some cues from what they've done and study them a little, and maybe find out how they've made this work, because the Giants do play in a good division. They have the Dodgers.
Here's where fans will jump in. I got to interrupt you because this is the truth of the matter. What is the difference? The Giants payroll by Spot Rack, which is not perfect, but hey, it is what it is 187 million, and they were trying.
It is, but the payroll isn't why they're winning. Payroll.
It helps though. Like, that's how you go out and you add pieces and you keep some guys and you.
they're paying Jock Peterson, but not a lot of money. The guys they paid this year, we talked about it. The Michael Conforto has been, decidedly average this year.
When Conforto goes sideways for Cleveland, it's a killer, right? They can't afford that. For San Francisco, when those guys go sideways, listen, Jock Peterson is their highest paid player. Number 2 is Brandon Crawford, Alex Wood at 3. None of those guys are living up to their money. After that, they took an approach of just spread it around. Like they're able to go out. Wilmer Flores is having a great year because they could give him $6.5 million. Cleveland can't afford to do that. They were able to go out and kind of $9 million to Rogers, $9 million to Haniger, $9 million to Cobb. And that's the difference. You just keep going down the list and they're just kind of handling it around. So, and it's that depth that Cleveland, they go out and they add, sorry, I keep interrupting you. They add a Wilmer Flores for depth. They add, Alex Cobb, Taylor Rogers. Cleveland is on the other end of it, going out and adding, the Ben Gamels of the world, because that's the tier they're in.
Yeah. So the Giants are spending some big money and they're spending some money to plug holes too. Cleveland could at least try to plug holes with some money while not spending on the big end. Like, you just got to have like Sully always says this on Lockdown and MLB, just have a major league player at every position. Like, Miles Straw is a 4th outfielder. He is not a starter. Things like that. You can't have
Tommy Listell at $10 million. That's the thing. They're paying Tommy Listell at $10 million this year.
Right.
They have close to $15 million in retained salaries and or deferred salaries. So that's Cleveland's. They can afford to get away with that.
Yeah, they have some money patching their mistakes. Cleveland's not going to approach the payroll. The Giants have a good fan base because their
$100 million difference between them. And a few years ago, I went and did a whole thing about like multiplying the average income of an area by their metro population. And the Giants actually had the largest total number if you take average metro income times the population, because of the fact that their average income is higher than I believe anywhere else, thanks to Silicon Valley. So they have a lot of reasons to have money.
It's a patchwork roster. Money aside, it's a patchwork roster. Yeah. They make bit players work. They might pay them a little more in order to have the depth to do it. When the stars they try to pay don't work out, and in Correa, higher paid guys are hurt, not performing, whatever. They make it work, and it looks like it's patchwork, but they make it work. So Cleveland can at least take a page out of that book and see how they can make it work. Maybe it's how they identify guys. It's how they mix and match their lineup on given days where, Austin Slater is playing, or how often Lamont Wade is playing, or how often Wilmer Flores is playing, whatever. There was a year where it was 2021, I think, was the year they talked about their platoons and how they squeeze the most out of guys. That's what Cleveland needs to find out, because that's what they haven't been doing. They haven't maximized the 26-man roster in quite some time. Probably not since 2013 for the most part in the Goon squad. So those are things they can take from the Giants.
I have that shirt still.
We'll talk about them. Yeah, I think I do somewhere too. It was a fun group. So, if you're looking at the Guardians roster and you're watching this game, I don't know. I feel like there's some correlation there, at least some hope for that. So we're going to talk about a couple more things related to West Coast baseball. We might throw out some managerial names. I don't know. We're trying to have this conversation at some point. We'll see when it happens, and then we'll talk about some promotions and some AFL news and things like that. And we'll check in on the game as the podcast goes along. So stick with us.
And real quickly, stick around for the whole show to find out what 2 Guardians greats were the greatest picks in certain rounds in Giants history. The MLB playoffs are around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on your chance for 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball's never been more exciting than it is now, with studs like Aquino, Betts, and Ohtani. Well, maybe not so much Ohtani. Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you could win big. Listen, just pick guys. Pick 2-3 guys, pick a stat category, more or less. It's taking you back to your middle school. Remember the alligator signs, more or less, with this, and have fun. It's not as in depth, and that's what gives you the opportunity to have a little more fun with Sleeper. Use the promo code LOCKEDON and get $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details.
Another late night for Guardians fans on the East Coast on Tuesday. 9:45, first pitch between Cal Quantrill and Sean Manaea, one of those guys we were just talking about. If you're going to stay up and you want to listen to the game, do it on your Sirius XM app. Just search Guardians. All right. Very quickly, because we didn't talk about it yesterday while they were facing the Angels, or while they were facing the Angels still. One, it's Bob Nightingale, so take it for what it's worth when he reports things, because it's Bob. If you know anything about Bob, it's Bob. But he claims, or he's reporting, that the Angels are willing to move Mike Trout if he decides he wants out of Los Angeles. I can't see why he wouldn't. They're a mess, as they just took 3 or 4 from the Guardians. So I know everyone's really happy to hear that. Whatever. Let's say this is even true, that Mike Trout, that the Angels will listen to offers on Mike Trout, and he might even ask for a trade. Whatever. Not just Guardian specific. For one, this Mike Trout's contract is big. He's been injured a lot lately. He's having the worst year of his career since his first year in the big leagues. Still a good player. All that aside, no faith here that Artie Moreno is going to allow them to trade him, because this is a guy who could have gotten Jock Peterson and Andy Pages like 4 years ago.
Didn't want to wait.
This is not even like a big trade. This is like a moderately sized trade. Jock Peterson would have been a nice piece for the Angels, and Andy Pages is going to be a nice player. And he just popped it and deflated the entire trade and said, "No, we're not doing this."
For those who don't know, the full background is Brudistar Gratriol's medicals fell apart, so they had to go back and redo the Mookie Betts trade. He went to the Dodgers. It might have worked out better for the Dodgers in the long run instead of him going to Boston. So that happened. So then they were told, "Hey, we got to wait to finish this other deal to make sure this gets done." And Artie Moreno wouldn't wait and screwed the pooch.
Yeah, that's Artie Moreno in a nutshell for you. Like this is the kind of owner he is. So if you're thinking, oh, maybe Cleveland should get in on Mike Trout, or maybe Mike Trout will finally get traded, no matter where it goes, Cleveland not going to do it for the money, and because the guy's, unfortunately, I hate to say it, I feel like Mike Trout is injury prone. But even if there is some world where Cleveland offers a deal that is fair for Mike Trout and you get excited about it, Artie Moreno is just going to come up and pull the rug and be like, "Nope, you're not trading my best player because Ohtani's walking. Ohtani's not going back to Los Angeles."
And I'm pretty sure
I would take that
a
to
no
Vegas
trade,
right now.
and I'm pretty sure Cleveland is on that list.
It probably is, but even so, Artie Moreno is going to pop that balloon. He's going to pull the rug out from it. Whoever is his GM this offseason,
he has
we don't
a
even know
full
who
no
it'll be.
trade. So even if there was a world where Cleveland was willing to take on that money, and here's the thing: for as much as he's having a down year, he only had 499 plate appearances last year due to injury, 362 this year, 146 in 2021. So he has missed more and more time. He's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. He's a great player. He's still 96th in sprint speed. He's still base run batted value is 13th best. His 79th percentile, 65th, and he still does everything really well. The only area is his arm isn't great, and whiff and K are high, but he doesn't chase. So even though the whiff and K are high, he doesn't chase. He's still one of the best players on the planet if he's healthy. But I saw someone bring it up. It's like, A, he would never agree to come here, and B, they couldn't afford it, even if the Angels ate most of that contract until we get the new ownership. Because their owner's going to say no. Yeah, he's going to want to hold on. He should just sell. He said he was going to sell. It looked like they were setting it up, and then he didn't actually do it. So.
No, it's not going to happen. You can just, Josh Naylor just went absolutely yarded. He go into the, Josh Naylor splashdown into the ocean, into the cove. All right.
I'm listen, I'm up watching so we can record here, or else my feed will go to crud. So
yeah, that's fair. Well, Josh Naylor just splashed down into McCovey Cove. That is big boy territory. Not really a shock there, but that's a two-run dinger for the Guardians and Josh Naylor. He is looking healthy. That's good. I did not think that we would have any players that could take it to McCovey Cove, but hangs out with Barry Bonds over there. Good for Josh. The Mike Trout thing. Yeah, I do not think that their owner is going to allow him to be traded because he's going to lose Ohtani. He's going to want to hang on to Trout. So even if they come to an agreement on terms of a trade for whoever he ends up, with any team, Artie Moreno is just going to pop the balloon. It's going to be over. So I don't think any franchise should get excited about having Mike Trout other than the Angels. They can go into next year and they can have Mike Trout play in 100 games next year and look good for 100 games, get hurt, and then miss the playoffs because that's what Mike Trout is agreed to. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad for everybody involved.
I think with
and it's
that
all
one, like
it's all Artie Moreno's fault. Let's be honest.
I mean, that's why Artie Moreno's a bottom 5 owner. But let's quickly hit our 40-man because do we go to break? Maybe we go to break, make this a short segment, and then come back and hit the 40-man stuff because we're already in danger going long.
Yep. All right. We got more stuff coming up on Lockdown Guardians. It is a beautiful ballpark the Giants have out in San Francisco. I'd like to visit it one year. If I do take a trip out there, I might use the Game Time app to get tickets because they sell out there quite a bit, and I'm going to be looking for a good deal on tickets. So I would probably use the Game Time app. I want to see where I'm going to be sitting. I want to get the best price. Game Time guarantee means you're always going to get the best price on any tickets, whether that's a baseball game, a comedy show, a concert, theater. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less that you are already going to sit in, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference, so 10% on top of the difference of that. Get images of seats before you buy them, buy tickets in a matter of seconds. It's a very easy app to use. The tickets are right on your phone, so it's very easy. None of this email, third-party stuff. It's very easy. So snag the tickets without the stress. The Game Time app, create an account. And for that first purchase, if you use code LOCKEDONMLB, you're going to get $20 off in addition to using a very easy app. Terms apply, create an account, and redeem that code LOCKEDONMLB to get $20 off the first time using Game Time. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. The last West Coast time, Game Time of the year for the Guardians in 2023. It is at 9:45 on Tuesday. You can listen to all the action as you fall asleep like you used to when you were a kid on your radio, but instead you can do it on a phone, your computer, on the SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians. Were you one of those guys, Jeff? Did you ever listen to baseball on the radio under your pillow like everyone talks about? Were you one of those guys?
I didn't have to do it under my pillow, but I listen. I am. I've been very honest about my problem with pronunciation, being ADD and dyslexic. And nowadays, they give a lot of kids who are on medication things to help them fall asleep at night. That was not my case. So I was one of those kids who had a hard time sleeping. So I just left it on. And I remember as a kid, if there was being a game on was great. But I remember also being a kid, and this will be for some of you somewhat old timers. It's like listening to Bill Needle into
Bill Needle.
And then it was what was the sports guy? He even had his name on a hockey game. It was like Coast. He was it was a national guy, and I can't think of it now. I'd have to go dig. But there was a 90s I think hockey game with his name on it, and you just get into the crazy stuff. Things I remember also sometimes if you're listening to the Guardians game on a weekend, Indians as a kid, you had I think was it Ron Barr the crazy kooky extraterrestrial radio host. I could do a whole show about the 90s radio because that was what I had. But yeah, just having fun with it. But go ahead and do we want to do 40-man or do we want to do managers?
Well, yeah, the manager thing is interesting. We want to have this discussion about managers because everybody else is having it, and because of how the show is run and the things we have to hit every day and the topics that while the season's still going on, we can't really have a good nuanced discussion about managers on any given day. Maybe the Guardians have an off day Thursday, so maybe on Friday's show we can probably get into the full nuance. But and being as deep as we are in the show, not going to happen today. But I look at the Giants roster, and I look at Gabe Kapler as interesting, and Brian Bannister is the director of pitching. He's highly thought of over the years. The Giants hired Kai Correa away from the Guardians as their infield coach. He was well liked in Cleveland when he was here. They do have Alyssa Nakin, who was the first, I believe, uniform female coach in baseball. So good for them. She's on the field there. I don't really know her. She's an assistant. Andrew Bailey, one-time top prospect, who's their pitching coach. That's always fascinating to me to see that. Interesting names there. Yeah, the coaching thing I think needs to be a more nuanced discussion we have time for. I don't know if we'll just at least go through the news today. So if you didn't see, Chase DeLauder is expected to be promoted to AA Akron to end the regular season. We kind of talked about that yesterday, about how he was moving up to end the year. We didn't know about Akron per se, but we knew he was going to play in the AFL, and it stood to reason that he would finish the year in AA Akron. Sounds like Diane Frias might be joining him there. Just kind of looking at AFL guys, like the Arizona Fall League roster should be announced fairly soon. I don't know how soon. I do know Chase DeLauder is going to be one of those guys. And I said yesterday in the show, I was going to tell you why I thought it was a good thing. Really, what's behind it is Cleveland. It means he's healthy, for one, right? It took forever for Chase DeLauder to get healthy and get on the field. Even when he got to Lake County, he wasn't playing every day, and he had some other, complications with that foot injury. He had a high ankle sprain. It took him a while to get his footing under him, pun or no pun intended. But when he was on the field, he was great, and he stayed on the field after a while, so that's good. So Cleveland wanting to get him the extra reps is a good thing. Him getting the extra reps is a good thing. Look, nobody sends really good pitching prospects to the Arizona Fall League for a lot of reasons, because the environment's poor for pitchers. It's Arizona, as we talk about all the time. Guys are tired at the end of the year. They don't really want to risk any top prospect injuries pitching in October. They'd rather work with guys in instructs where it's more controlled. So you don't really get a whole lot of pitching prospects out there. So whoever Chase DeLauder faces in Arizona may not really be any better than he's already faced, to tell you the truth. And the ball flies in Arizona. So you might say, Chase DeLauder had a great Arizona Fall League numbers-wise. Doesn't mean
never
nothing.
Look at the numbers.
No, not in Arizona, especially. Not in – there's a lot of places in the minors you should not take numbers seriously. Low A is one of them. Arizona Fall League and spring training are both firmly on that. But, hey, he's going to play in the Arizona Fall League. He's healthy. That's a good thing. Reasonable to believe he'll be a full-time guy at AA Akron next year. He could see AAA. But I was just kind of looking over the roster, and I was like, geez, who else could go there? Like, the Arizona Fall League is generally for guys who got hurt, and guys who need reps, and guys that the team is trying to get a final look at, right? Like, we've seen Richie Palacios and Jose Tena in years past because they were 40-man. Mm-hmm. They needed to be protected or not. So Cleveland got a last look at them just to decide, and they both did. Angel Martinez was there last year. David Fry was there last year. This year, Kyle Manzardo fits in that bucket, even though he doesn't have 40-man status for another year. Jonathan Rodriguez makes some sense, although he's older. Ethan Hankins, if he's healthy, makes sense. I said Cleo Watson initially, but I don't think he will now because I think Cleveland will try to work with him in instructs. Ryan Webb makes a lot of sense because he came on at the end of the year but missed some time. Ross Carver had some interesting stuff. He missed some time. I said Franco Alamon, but he's a year away, and I think he pitched a lot this year.
Yeah.
Diane Frias, who was voted as by managers in the Midwest League as the best defender at third base in that league this year. He is 40-man eligible this offseason, or Rule 5 eligible. Could be a guy you see there. But you and I off air yesterday talked about a couple guys too that we weren't even aware of, like Jose Devers, who had an interesting year in low A.
Really turned it on in August. Like his August numbers were crazy.
Yeah, so he's I don't know. There's not a whole lot of precedent for sending low A guys there, and I'm not even convinced their team is going to look at that and be like, oh, that's a guy from low A for sure that we're going to stash on our roster. Cleveland doesn't protect him. I don't know. We don't know the batted ball data, but it's hard to believe based on history that's going to happen. Wilfredo Antunez is another guy who is Rule 5 eligible who could warrant some Arizona Fall League playing time to get an extra look at him. So those are just a couple extra guys that kind of popped up that could be interesting. Like I said, I think we should hear something here in the next week or two on the official rosters.
No, I agreed. It's always fun to see. It's always good for those extra opportunities. And the big thing, again, I would say it's reps. It's reps for guys who missed time or didn't get that opportunity.
It is a rough day for Gavin Williams so far. He gave a leadoff homer to Mike Yastrzemski. He's allowed the Giants to tie it here in the bottom of the third, 2-2. He's only got 5 swings and misses through 3 innings. And fastball velocity is still there.
And this one could get away from him in this inning. He's struggling to hit his spots.
Yeah, he's got 3 walks already, and the velocity's fine, but the walks are kind of rough. And I don't know. Like we talked about how the Giants' offense not exactly like a list of names, but they get it done and they perform. Yeah. So if you want to look at how a patchwork roster can work, the Giants are a good example. But I do think the Giants have a good coaching staff. I do think Gabe Kapler is interesting. I think they have an interesting list of coaches in front office.
I think we'll have to table the coach conversation for the off day this week and come back and discuss.
We knew that.
I've got some names. I do want to say for those who were curious, so they don't miss out, the 2 former greats. By the way, at the Giants, Dan Otero, greatest 21st round pick in the history of the Giants. Travis Ishawaki, who I kind of liked for a while, was number 2, and then Dennis Cook. Nope, this isn't the right Dennis Cook. Never mind, because the Guardians drafted the Dennis Cook that they had. So I even got that wrong. But Brian Wilson was their second best, 20th round pick. And he was a former Guardians draft pick, just didn't sign here. The beard, as it were.
The Beach Boys? Good. Wow, interesting. He was a great baseball player, too.
Brian Wilson, right? Isn't that the closer? I closed that tab, so I'm hoping that. But I remember he was another one of those picks that got away in that era where every pick, got away, including Travis Lincecum, right? Or Tim Lincecum, that's it. Wrong.
Tim Lincecum, yeah, that high school pick that nobody really expected to sign, but
well, he was a draft eligible sophomore, was what he was, and then he came back the next year.
He was like a 40th round pick.
Yes, but they made a real run at him. Everything was that they actually tried to convince him as a 42nd round pick that year. Draft eligible sophomore,
right?
And then the next year he would go 10th overall to the Giants.
Where did he go to college? Was it University of Washington? He was from Washington.
Yeah, he's University of Washington. But yeah, they made a real run, but didn't come together there. Just like much of this season hasn't come together. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that a cheap shot? Here we are at the end.
We'll do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll discuss this game. I may or may not stay up for the whole thing. Yet to be determined by how tired I am and if they decide to go to extra innings, as there is their want this year. It feels like at points when it is a late game. We want to thank you again.
All versus Emmanuel Clase. That should be fun.
Yeah, but we want to thank you all for joining us. We know again, it's not been easy to be a Guardians fan this year, but we hope we have made it easier and more fun. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for joining us on the ride that is another waiting for next year's season. But thank you all, and go Guardians, go.